All right, so Path of Exile 2's 0.5 release has been out for going on close to about a week now, and we've gotten to see the general feel of what the game is. Now, I wanted to look at it from the unique position of a busy working dad, a dad who doesn't have a whole lot of time to devote to video games. Can you actually play Path of Exile 2 and find a way to make it work for your busy life? And that's kind of what I was looking at here. So make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, especially if you are a busy working dad or parent. Or just busy. All right, so to start off, what is Path of Exile 2? It really isn't like a quiet game that you've never heard of. It is an ARPG that has been out for about like a year and a half now, and it's the successor of the wildly popular Path of Exile. And I played through that game originally, trying to just figure out all the different systems, all the different nooks and crannies. And there is a lot. And like its successor, Path of Exile 2, there is quite a bit going into this game. Now, I won't necessarily go into the massive amount of depth that is available for the game, but I wanted to look at their 0.5 release, so halfway through their early access, see what they have to offer, and to see if it was going to be kind of worth a busy dad's time. So if you're playing an ARPG, you know that there's a bunch of different classes, and then the build customization, which I will cover later, is wildly in-depth. There is so much going on. There's so many moving pieces. How they integrate into the actual systems of your skills. Now, your skill gems are basically where your skills, your weapon skills, come from. And right now, they're, we'll say, a little bit landlocked. There are oriented around being for their specific class. So, for example, if you play a monk, it's a lot of the weapon skills that you have are oriented around the quarterstaff. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't build other ways. It doesn't mean that you can't do other things in your building. That, of course, is 100% true. It's very similar to the way that they did it with Path of Exile. You can customize and mix and match all the different skills that you want to do. It's essentially the game is your plaything. It is your sandbox. You figure it out as you go. What ends up happening for Path of Exile 2 is that you go through the entirety of this campaign, which paints a really good story. It's a direct sequel of that of Path of Exile, so kind of a continuation of that story. And as you go through, you are getting stronger, you're fighting tougher bosses, you're trying to survive against overwhelming amounts of enemies. It's a lot of fun. And then, of course, when you get to endgame, which is one of the more fun aspects, the replayability is there with mapping. So at the endgame, you can essentially go into a endless cycle of maps and zones where you can make them much more difficult, offer a lot more rewards based off of that difficulty, and the cycle continues on from there. But then again, your build really gets tested at that point, so if you don't have a build that's up to snuff, you'll get snuffed out very quickly. So in a long-winded nutshell, it's an ARPG with a ton of replayability. There is a lot of different avenues. There's a lot of different things that you can do in this game. And it's fast, it's fun when you pull it off successfully. But let me go ahead and dive into build crafting a bit. So in Path of Exile 2, as it was in Path of Exile 1, the build crafting is like the centerpiece of this game. There is a ever-growing, we'll say, sandbox of items and skills and gems and customization that is possible for your unique build. Now, there are tons of build possibilities, but the trade-off is that they're not always as effective as compared to others. For example, when I played Path of Exile 2, when it was initially released, I played as the monk again, but it was a basic attack quartermaster, monk. Like, I didn't really have any kind of cohesion with my build. I was just whacking away with my stick. And then about 3/4 of the way through the campaign, I found out, oh, hey, by the way, I should probably use these skill gems that I have. And then it just whoosh took off. And my build was a lot better. And I went from there. The difference between a really good build and a phenomenal build, or a crappy build and a phenomenal build, is really just about the coordination. So the Path of Exile 2 passive tree, much like the Path of Exile 1 passive tree, is immense. There are hundreds, if not more, nodes that you can choose and allocate points to. Now, when you put out points to this, it changes your character in a number of different ways. You might be able to deal more frost damage or cold damage. You might be able to deal more lightning damage, more physical, wider area of attacks. You attack faster with specific skills or specific criteria. There's a lot of complexity up and down. And coordinating that kind of build for your character is the key to either making and making the game very we'll say, I don't even want to say very simple, but a lot more enjoyable versus being a lot more frustrating. And that's something that I had to learn myself, is sometimes following along the experience of others, those who have more time, can be a lot more beneficial. Now, when I went ahead and played Path of Exile 2 this time around, I followed what is called a build guide, or a league starter build for the new league. Now, this new league that just came out, it essentially is just adding something new to the game. It's kind of revamping a lot of other different aspects of the game, but every so often, I think it's like every 3 to 5 months, I might be wrong on that, but it seems like every quarter, there is a new league that comes out and there's something more to do in the game. And I decided to play a league starter build for the martial artist monk, which the martial artist is an ascendancy class that just came out, which is another way that further changes your build. Again, when I say that it's crazy in depth, that's what I mean. Now, following a league starter build greatly increased my enjoyability of the game, because there was a coordinated plan. The first time that I went through, it was just kind of like putting it together and figuring it out on my own. This time around, I've been able to cruise through most of the campaign in a quarter of the time that it took me the first time. I think the first time it took me to go 3 acts, it took me about 35, 40 hours. And that's not a lie. And it's also probably didn't help that I had the crappiest build in the world. So when I eventually figured out, oh, okay, let me just follow this league starter build and follow the experience of someone else, it worked a heck of a lot better, and I'm cruising through everything. So there is an idea of learning a bit of experience, or having a bit of experience behind someone who might know a bit about the game for your particular build. Now, there's some pros and cons. If this is your first time playing it, I kind of do recommend you just go in there and figure it out on your own. Because if you're like me and you kind of view Path of Exile 2 and 1 in ARPGs like a puzzle, what works, what doesn't work, what do I need to work on to either do more damage, make myself more survivable? So there's this trade-off back and forth. Overall, build crafting in this game it's like the heart of this game, because the stronger your particular build is with the particular items that you get, the more that you'll be able to push into endgame and be able to cruise through not only the campaign, but further into the maps. And there's a lot even after that. Once you get to endgame, that just opens up the other half of the game, which is wild to say. Overall, build crafting, very important, very in-depth, and if you like those kind of puzzle things, then Path of Exile 2 might be something that you want to pay attention to. But does the game respect your time? So this is kind of a loaded question, because there's 2 ways that you can look at Path of Exile. So when you create your character, there are 2 different options that there's more than 2. It's like 2.5, we'll say, that you can choose. Either you're starting out in the standard game, or you're joining a league. So the league will only ever include all of the other previous leagues' content and all those different items into that league, plus the new one that was recently released with this patch. The standard league, right, it has every previous league already built into the game, and then whatever else is new, like for the Runes of Alder, they won't be in the standard league. And the idea is to kind of break it up, because once that league ends, Runes of Alder, once this current league ends, those characters that you created will meld into the standard league, and all of your materials, everything will get meshed there together. So it's kind of like you're digging in, and there is no, we'll say, lost experience or lost materials or currencies or anything like that, because there is this constantly your private stash. Even if you're playing the standard league, or you're playing the whatever league is out for the current patch, you're gonna have those characters forever. You're not losing any progress. It's not like they get deleted, unless they are hardcore and you die. That is a possibility that you can play. Don't recommend doing it until you understand the game a little bit, but I don't even think I would enjoy it, even if I understood the game. But the idea is that you have this flexibility back and forth of which one you want to play. Now, having said that, the game is fairly, we'll say, favorable for the amount of respect that it has for your time, for what little time you may have, because there is only, there is certain little things that you can knock out in 10, 15, 20 minutes if that's all you have. You can explore a new zone. You could work on one of your ascendancy trials. You can work on, clearing out a map and progressing some of your quests. Like, there are things that take about 15, 20 minutes for you to do. And that's just through the campaign. Your first playthrough of the campaign, I hope it's faster than mine. Like I said, mine took quite a bit of hours. But if you're relatively intuitive and you're able to pick it up and kind of understand what's going on, you'll be able to move faster through the campaign. It still might take 15 to 20 hours for you if you're going at an even pace. And I kind of recommend that because there's a lot going into the game already. And it's only halfway through early access, halfway through, and there's already this much. So I would recommend starting at the standard league and just taking your time and not trying to rush to endgame, because it will respect your time in that regard, because your character doesn't necessarily go anywhere. Your character's there. You can continue progressing on your character. There's no changes to the league. There's nothing else going on to it. It's just what it is. And it stays there, and it's relatively permanent, which is awesome. And I love that aspect about this game. Also, small note, when you're playing by yourself, if you're playing on a solo, like we'll say map or zone or what have you, you're not involving any other players online, you can pause the game. That's a huge deal. I mean, at least to me, that is a huge deal. You can pause the game. Aside from that, every time that the new league restarts or a new league starts, essentially all that work in progress, even if you did the current league, which is Ruins of Alder, it will just load that back to the standard character. All of the materials and stuff that you gain will transfer over, and then it's like that was your haul for this league. So even over time, if all you're doing is completing the campaign on each one of the new league characters, you're going to accrue wealth over time, and it doesn't go anywhere, which is phenomenal, and it is something that I recommend. And again, as you get more experience into the game, you'll be able to move faster, you'll be able to clear the campaign quicker, and then get to endgame. Now, I haven't talked about mapping and how it respects your time, because eventually you'll beat the campaign and then you'll get to the end and you'll be able to do mapping, which it's about a week after 0.5 release, and I'm about to finish up Act 4. Taking my time, again, understanding this league build and not necessarily going as fast. And when you get to mapping, essentially you are just loading in brand new instances to be cleared by your build and your character at the promise of loot and other resources and things like that. So the idea of replayability and scalability is there. So you can constantly still be working and taking your time if you need to. If you do need to step away for a week, it's not like your character gets any weaker. And what's also beautiful about it is that if you purchase Path of Exile 2 right now, I mean, the game will eventually be free to play like Path of Exile 1. This is more so, I suppose, supporting the game. But even though I'm saying all this, Path of Exile 2 will still be free at release. Grinding Gear Games, the developers, have promised that. And Path of Exile 1's free anyway, so I mean, you can't get really much better than that. Now, is Path of Exile 2 fun, especially when you only have limited amounts of time? I would say it is fun. However, you have to go in to it with almost like take that statement with a grain of salt, because it's fun as you get more involved into it. Your first couple of sessions are going to start out just like any other ARPG or MMO, honestly, in that point, where you're just going around whacking things with a stick. But you progressively get stronger and you progressively get better very quickly in an ARPG. And if you're intuitive, if you're a lot smarter than me, it will be a lot more fun a lot quicker, because you can start building combinations of skills, and then your passive tree will offer a number of traits that make you stronger just very quickly just by allocating them there. So the fun does come, and especially your first playthrough of Path of Exile 2, it is brutal. And it's such a damn good time. So if you like a good challenge and you're able to dedicate the time for it, it's great. And I would highly recommend, highly recommend, because it does get fun fairly fast. It takes like 2 or 3 sessions. I won't even say hours, because I'm busy working dad. You might only get, half hour here, and then the next day you get an hour and a half, and then the third day you get no time. So it's going to take a couple of sessions for you to get to a point where you're able to just cruise and deal a lot of damage and have a good time. But once you get to that point, it is so enjoyable, especially when you start taking on tougher enemies and you're starting to screen wipe, which is you're wiping enemies off of the screen just in a single press of a button or a couple of presses of the button, which is a lot of fun. It's so satisfying. And then there's going to be the endless scalability. And then even from there, once you get to a point where your character already has the gear, it has a whole bunch of other skills and stuff like that, you can go back and play through with a different class and a different skill set and learn from there. So there is this enjoyability about the different play styles of the different classes. So I would say it does take a minute, but it's not a very long minute, and then you'll be able to have a good time and really enjoy this game, 100%. So overall, is Path of Exile 2 worth it for a busy working dad? And I say yes, honestly. It is very much worth your time. It is very much worth your effort. It does get fun very quickly. It has a lot of aspects that are, and like I said, it's like a puzzle. There's something that you can constantly keep picking at and have a good time and figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and then growing from there. Now, I will also say 100% that it does come with that caveat of it might take you some time, especially because the campaign's very robust and there's a lot of different things that you should definitely explore as you're going through and a lot of different things that you should experience as you are playing the game. But it is 100% worth it because that initial experience is great. The aha moment of figuring out your build and understanding what makes sense, it drastically, just a night and day difference, drastically improves the amount of enjoyability, the amount of fun that you have with the game. 100% highly recommend you to just take your time if you're a busy working dad, play what sessions you can, get a feel for the game, and then go from there. Now, again, if you want to play it currently, it does cost money. I think it's like $40 right now. Eventually, it will be free to play. So if budget constraints are a thing, which sometimes they are, I 100% get that, you might hold off on that. Or if you don't like the puzzle aspect of it, where it is so in-depth, there are so many systems that you have to learn. There's different, there's crafting, there's your ascendancies, there's the different leagues and all that, all those different aspects, and they tell it to you. But if you are in a mindset where you just want to be able to load in and turn your brain off and not really think, it'll take you time to get there. And there are some people who just, that might not even be palpable. So if I had to give it a solid Calf Dad rating, I would say probably about an 8 out of 10 for the good for dad scale, just because eventually you get to a point where it's almost second nature. You're so much better. You're so much faster. You get a lot of stuff done very quickly because you've been there and you've had that experience, and then you can build off of that. Overall, the 0.5 release of Path of Exile has been great. I have been thoroughly enjoying myself. I'm probably going to finish up Act 4 and then get into some maps, and I don't know, I might make a spellcaster or a minion build. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But if you want to see my Is It Good for Dads take on Windrose, which is a game that came out about last month, a little over. It's a pirate survival crafting game. You can click this video here. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.